This is our Anything in Print podcast.
I think the most recent figures that I think are still shocking are about the number of people that are working and are still just only not even keeping their head above water, living in poverty. There's nearly 8 million people of working age in the UK that are struggling, and they'll be in our businesses, won't they? And they may not actually be making their voice known because they don't want to, but they may need some help. So there's a backdrop of that. One of the hardest things, of course, is people don't like asking for help, and we get that. We're all individuals, aren't we? Over the years, we've tried to find ways to make it easier for people to access the support, and so we set up the helpline. And it was a way of us being able to say to all organisations, you've got your business, you will be championing your own people, and it's about them as individuals. And here it is, it's free. You don't pay anything. We're funding it as the charity for the sector. And you get access 24 hours a day for emotional support. So we've got nearly 300 organisations representing about 26,000 people in our sector. So every one of those individuals has access, should they need it, to our helpline, which gives, which I hope and I know, because we see and hear some of the stories, but about the fact that it's there, they can have a conversation. Just reach out to us, pretty easy. You look on our website, you can see the details.
Hello, I am Tanya Howe, one of the leaders at graphic communications team here at Ricoh UK. I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of our Anything in Print podcast in 2024. If you haven't caught up yet on the previous episodes from 2023, I really encourage you to do so. We cover some great inspirational topics that may help your business transformation, help you find growth, or improve customer experience in your sector. We dedicated Series 2 to champions of print, people and businesses that drive the innovation forward, discover new ways of doing things, make bold decisions, and have a vision for their print operation. But today we will be discussing people working in print, their well-being, their access to help, and one incredible charity that is on a mission to reach all in need of support. When preparing for this recording, I felt incredibly touched by some of the stories and direct impact this charity is making. I'm sure you will too. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Neil Lovell, the CEO of the printing charity. Welcome, Neil. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Before we dive deeper into the conversation, let's start with you, your work, and the incredible story behind the printing charity.
Well, we've been around for quite a while. So, I know some people know about us, but not everybody. And as you said earlier on, our aim is to try and get more people to know a bit more about what we do and who we are, because we've been around for so long. 1827 is when we were first founded, and we're one of the oldest occupational charities. Clearly, we love print, we love people in print, and our organisation was set up to support them a long time ago. And part of that story, so the story goes certainly, is that there were the first occupational charity was to do with the clock and watchmakers. And apparently a group of these individuals, so it was a big business in the UK at that time, got together to decide to support people who were working in their environment, in their sector, when they needed help. And of course, what did they do? They need to promote that. They went to some printers to have the materials promoting the work printed. And this group of printers thought, this is a good idea. Why don't we have a look at that as well? They actually decided to do this in a pub somewhere in London, so probably not such a surprise for some people. But the great effect of that introduction by the clock and watchmakers was the formation of what we are now. But previously printing charitable corporation, lots of different names, but we were set up essentially to help people who were working in our sector but who were facing challenges. The way we do that now is different from 1827. Clearly, we've evolved from that. Mm-hmm. But the real essence of it has been organisations looking out for their people. And that's something that we keep doing, partly through the helpline that we'll probably talk about, I'm sure, during this conversation, through the support we give through grants, financial support, the great stuff we do to encourage young people into print and champion them. And also some of the work that we have a couple of sheltered homes as well for people that have retired from print. So from pretty humble beginnings, we've actually, extended what we do over the years.
That's incredible. And I remember having a discussion with you earlier this year around the sheltered accommodation that you offer, and I just find that absolutely incredible. Thank you. It's always inspiring to see an organisation that is making such a huge impact on people's lives, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't realise the range of support available to them. I certainly didn't until I spoke with you. How do they ask for help? I'd love to hear a little bit more about those initiatives.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the hardest things, of course, is people don't like asking for help, and we get that. We're all individuals, aren't we? We feel as though we want to deal with whatever is in front of us and, be brave, don't we? We like being brave. It's not always good for us. So, over the years, we've tried to find ways to make it easier for people to access the support. There are lots of other occupational charities out there that are challenged by the same thing. How do you get people to, when they really need someone to talk to, how do you get them to, to open up, to make that first step, have that first conversation? And, the last few years, one of the main ways that we've been looking at achieving that, trying to get more people to encourage more people to talk to us, is to establish the helpline. And it's really the route into the support that you can get from the charity. And what we did a few years ago is we looked around and we talked to a lot of organisations to see what support do they have in place for when people are struggling. And it could be that it's financial support that they're looking for. It could be that that's emotional support. And you'll know that there's a lot of big organisations in our sector. We all have seen and know those, but there's a lot of small organisations for whom HR support, extra support from the managers isn't necessarily available to them. So after having a few conversations, we thought, well, how do we help in those spaces where there isn't anybody to actually have a conversation with? And so we set up the helpline. And it was a way of us being able to say to all organisations, you've got your business, you will be championing your own people, but there'll be times when maybe you don't have the time, the resource to be able to respond to the needs of your staff when it's not about the job they're doing, or about the environment. It's about them as individuals. And here it is, it's free. You don't pay anything. The person using the service doesn't pay anything. We're funding it as the charity for the sector. And you get access 24 hours a day for emotional support. And that, we've been through, who hasn't been through in the last few years, the most unusual times. The world has turned upside down. The impacts of that are being felt and will be felt for a long time. And so how do businesses respond when someone's just not feeling great or facing challenges that they hadn't really thought of before? So we made it, here we are. This is something that you can have as an organisation. We work with each organisation. We now have, I'm really pleased to say, we've got nearly 300 organisations representing about 26,000 people in our sector. So every one of those individuals has access, should they need it, to our helpline, which gives, which I hope and I know, because we see and hear some of the stories, but about the fact that it's there, they can have a conversation. It's non-judgmental, it's confidential. Nothing we do goes back to any employers. It's about the conversation they have with that person on the other end of the phone, and it helps to guide and steer, helps them in that moment. And that was one of the things we wanted to try and achieve, find a way for people to access this support easily. So it's a phone number. You can do it online as well, but it's a phone number. You can have a conversation with a human being. You can actually, there are other ways of looking at support. Not everybody wants to talk to someone straight away. So there's things coming down the line that we want to try and develop further around, text-based or other ways to interact with people. But essentially, if you need some help, if the organisation itself is looking at how to support its staff, we have a ready-made sort of support system that can be put in straight away.
That's fantastic. It is so difficult to ask for help, particularly if you've never asked before. How can we work with organisations to help them encourage their staff to utilize a service like this, because it is anonymous, it is free, it's not causing it's not costing the organizations money, that kind of leads their employees to pursue this additional support. How can we help encourage our listeners to share this information with their employees?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, we do what we can to try and provide the right materials. So, you know, when we work with an organisation and that we know that they want us to support their staff by introducing the helpline, they have someone that they talk to in the charity, that so we can understand how do people generally absorb information. You know, are you a big organisation, so you have your intranets and you have all of these other mechanisms and communications tools? And if you do, then great, we'll provide materials and information that can go into those. If you're a small organisation, then maybe it's a slightly different approach, where we might need to go and talk to everybody together, or there's other ways to actually find the best way to get the message out to them. And then so it's about the communication, it's about understanding how businesses talk to their staff, but also it's about making sure that what we present helps to sort of destigmatize any sense of a conversation. You know, it's non-threatening, there's no issue with, you know, what we want to do is say, look, just make the first step. What you've got nothing to lose, have a conversation. And actually what we find is it takes time. It's, you know, there's no silver bullets. It's not an overnight, you know, very, very quick. It takes time for people to, even though we can provide information, for people to sort of digest that, and then they may forget about us for a while. We communicate as regular as we can with each organisation. So there may be a point 6 months down the line when someone suddenly needs some support, and they then start to think, oh, well, actually, I do remember that organisation, and my employer has been encouraging me to talk to that organisation. And so it's about, you know, it's about providing the right information, having great relationships. You know, what we find with this sector, with the print sector, that the people that get it are so fantastic. They want to encourage their staff. They believe in their staff so much, and that is the majority of the sector. There's a lot of people that don't know about it, so that once they know about it, it's generally, well, of course we want to use this service. So really, it's, if you know anybody listening to this, and they think, well, actually, I know a few organisations, do contact us, do let us know, because we'd like to have a conversation. And it starts with the conversation. It's what we say, you know, we don't know where it will lead. We don't know what your staff need from us, but there's support available. So yeah, destigmatize it, get the communication out, get to know that organisation, and then stories start to flow from other organisations. And we talk about some of those externally when appropriate, and people can see themselves sometimes in those, and that helps them also to maybe take that first step. So yeah, there's lots of ways, and we try and, you know, each time we try and communicate in a way that makes it easy for people to think, yeah, that I can take that support when I need it.
That's great. That's great. I personally believe that no print organisation can succeed without happy and engaged employees, and I think that the industry recognises that. And like you say, the majority of who we speak to really care about the individuals that work with them, that they work as a family, typically some of these smaller organisations, and they really do care. And you talked about destigmatizing the conversation. I think since COVID, wellbeing and mental wellbeing in particular, the mental health has been something that has been open, and we've talked more about it. And I think it's a real opportunity in 2024 to really bring this to the forefront and talk more about the tools and support mechanisms that you have for the industry. It's just so important that we stay current with the industry and help the individuals, because bringing in top talent into this industry is difficult, as we know. Yeah. It's a fabulous industry to work in, and I enjoy it so much, and I know my team do. But it's very difficult to attract new young talent into the industry. So, what are the types of things that we can do there to support organisations?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot happening, and and actually it's about the sector, the industry, organisations working together, because much as you want the best employees and all the new ones, but so do other people. And it's about encouraging a positive representation of what the sector is. As you say, you love it. And people we meet and work with absolutely do love their jobs. And people don't externally, if you're a young person coming through now, you don't really know anything enough about the sector, or what you do know may not be right. Often it's about changing perceptions, isn't it? One of the things that we've been doing for quite some time now is the Rising Stars Awards, and it's our sort of way of being able to help champion young people. And its evolution has come from, how do you encourage young people to consider this sector as a place to be, as a place to start to build your career? People know about retail, don't they? And they know about financial services, and they know about all these other areas.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you say print, there's a different view of that. So every year we promote the Rising Stars Awards, and it's for people aged between 18 and 30, young people. And it's an ability for them to be able to apply to us for a grant of up to £1,500 to support their personal development. And it's not to let the employer off the hook from doing the essential training they need to do. It's really about encouraging young people to think about things that maybe they're not able to do at work through their traditional training route, but things that might enrich their own ability to be able to, progress their own personal skills. So this year we had 34 winners, all receiving their, up to £1,500 to support their training. And what we saw this year was a real shift in the types of roles that people are doing in the sector. It covered everything, from the sales side, administration side, through to the hands-on side, through to, marketing. And it shows the diversity of the sector. And I think if there's anything the sector can do about improving the image of the sector and what is available, this is a technology-driven sector now, isn't it? Of course, it has the most beautiful skill set as well. When you want to do finer detail and beautiful things, it's driven by technology, isn't it? And that's a hot subject now, isn't it? That people want to get involved in. If you're a young person, you want to know you're in an environment that's going to keep evolving and growing, and you can grow with it. And that's what this sector does. So in our small way, I guess, the Print Futures Awards, as they were now Rising Stars, were about setting that up. And we've had about 500 winners since we started that quite a while ago now. And so every year we encourage people, we promote at the beginning of the year to consider about the development that they want, talk to their manager, talk to their organisation, make an application to us. We have some great judges from the sector that get together and try and help those that have applied to see, what they've asked for, if that will actually help encourage them and their skills to grow. And the successful ones get the awards. Those that aren't successful at that point may apply in future years, but they may also get some feedback that helps them as well to develop. And that's all been really positive. And our next step on that is to look at how we can do mentoring and grow it beyond that. So, and of course, we work with all the from the BPIF to the IPIA and all these other groups and organisations like yourself to try and encourage, people of that, between 18 and 30 to apply to us and consider how this support could help just boost them and give them some extra skills that they may not otherwise be able to access, or at least not at this point in their career.
Sounds like a fantastic initiative. Well done.
Thank you. We love it. It's so great seeing younger people coming in. They're so enthusiastic, and they would never have imagined working in a print sector, because but look at what they're doing. Some fantastic stories of how it's helped them develop, how it's built them confidence, how they can see their future now growing as a result. That can only be good for the sector, can't it?
Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And Ricoh is incredibly people-centric. We give a lot back to our communities and young generation via different ESG initiatives. So we're definitely aligned here. You mentioned to me one of your top priorities in 2024 is to reach those across the country that need support the most. How can our listeners help?
Yeah, well, I think there's some really shocking figures out there right now, and it's probably not a surprise. Look at what we've been going through with the cost of living crisis, post-COVID, uncertainty, anxiety, lots of different things out there. And we know people need help, but we're just trying to access them. I think the most recent figures that I think still shocking are about the number of people that are working and are still just only not even keeping their head above water, living in poverty. There's nearly 8 million people of working age in the UK that are struggling, and they'll be in our businesses, won't they? And they may not actually be making their voice known because they don't want to, but they may need some help. So there's a backdrop of that. There's there's areas where we know we would like to just be available so that when someone could call, needs some support, they could call us for that, and it might be financial support. So the way I think that your listeners can help us is, think about the network of organizations that you work with. If you're a big organization like you as Ricoh, for instance, the supplier network, people that are attached to our sector are also eligible. Think about, are there people you can introduce us to? And reach out to us. It's really simple. Talk to us. If you're an organization that has listened to this and you think, of course, either your organization would like to get involved and have the helpline and support, or others that you come across, just reach out to us. Pretty easy. You look on our website, you can see the details. It's support at theprintingcharity.org.uk as well. And we will take it from there. We will find a contact within our organisation to reach out to the one that you're suggesting, do an introduction to us. There's that we're not asking for anything. We don't fundraise. We certainly aren't asking for funding as a result of using any of our services. We genuinely want to actually find a way to reach more of those small organisations. And they are a challenge because some of those smaller ones don't actually connect to other business groups necessarily. They might be in their area, but we don't know what we don't know, if that makes sense, in terms of where they are. So any insights as well about how we might reach them from any of the listeners will be really gratefully received. As I say, we have nearly 26,000 people that we can cover through the helpline, with the nearly 300 people in our sector, ranging from very large right through to very small organisations. So we're making massive progress, and as a result of that, we're hearing great things about what other organisations are doing to encourage well-being and welfare in their organisations. So a lot happening, but more that we'd like to try and get to. So yeah, and anybody that's listening, just reach out to us, and we will see how we can take that forward.
That's great. Thank you, Neil. Before we close and say goodbye, do you have any final comments, Neil?
I guess thank you for this opportunity, and for Ricoh. I think it's as you say, we know you to be people-centric organisations, and we know this whole sector to be one that is. You mentioned family earlier. You mentioned, we know that there is this connection when people work in this sector, and we also know that there are some that continues to go through massive change. We mentioned technology earlier. That's going to keep driving change. Change is hard. Change is tough. There are people that benefit from that, and there are people that are more challenged by that. So we're going to be here for another 200 years. We've been here for the last 200. We want to be here to help those organisations that are facing change. Talk to us if you think there's going to be something that's a negative in your organisation. We might be able to help you. In the same way, talk to us when there's something positive, because we can maybe help drive some of that communication for you as well. So yeah, really, if in doubt, if you've heard something you like today about what we're doing, check us out. Look online for the Printing Charity, but do reach out to us, to me, LinkedIn, or however way you want to do it as well. And have a conversation. It starts with a conversation. We would love to support more organisations in our sector, and know that they are doing amazing things already. There's always more that we can do. So yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been great to speak with you, and I wish you all the success. And I really look forward to personally supporting the charity in 2024. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tanya.
Ricoh.